Human rights advocates long opposed the defamation resolution because it targeted speech, not behavior, and because it protected the rights of a religion rather than individuals. A group of Muslim nations called the Organization of the Islamic Conference sponsored the defamation resolution. Critics say they designed it to protect Islam.
This effort has been led by the Pakistanis to give UN cover to their own draconian blasphemy law and similar laws in other Islamic countries.
In Pakistan, a blasphemy law has been used to persecute Christians and other religious minorities.
Simple Christian activities like praying, worshiping, and sharing one's belief in Jesus Christ with a neighbor can be interpreted as offensive and therefore restricted.
In recent months, Islamic hardliners murdered 2 Pakistani officials for speaking out against Pakistan's blasphemy law. Muslim leaders praised the killings, sparking an international outcry. That pressure might have played a role in influencing Pakistani leaders to drop their support for the defamation resolution.
In light of the recent assassination of Governor Taseer Punjab and Shahbaz Bhatti, the Christian minister, few countries were really willing to join in this anti-defamation resolution. Those murders really demonstrated the harsh and dark nature of the blasphemy laws and those regimes that support them.
This year's resolution is based on terms advocated by Western religious rights groups. While it emphasizes protecting individuals from discrimination or violence because of their faith, religious rights watchers say it too could be used to stifle religious freedom. They also warn the OIC will probably bring back the defamation resolution in the future. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Thanks, Dale. Jay Sekulow of the American Center for Law and Justice joins us now. Jay, you fought against this defamation resolution for years, and tell us why it's so dangerous.
Well, it was awful, Pat. It was really an act that was designed only to protect Islam and the propagation of Islam, and was used, or attempted to be used, to not only silence Christianity, but was used as an excuse, as the piece just indicated, to cause harm and violence to Christians. Here's the irony of this. It's called the defamation of religion. That's what the idea was. Well, you know, nobody should want to defame religion, but that's not what it meant. It meant that if you spoke out, if you said words that were against Islam, and by the way, that could just be the proclamation of the gospel and never mentioning Islam or Muslim religious beliefs, you would violate this. But here's what the undercurrent, the understory of what's happened here, Pat. There's a lot of reports that people are reading about how this happened. But let me tell you how it happened. The American Center for Law and Justice and the European Center for Law and Justice and other groups that were involved as well, but we got involved heavily 3 years ago. And for the first time, since this started to be introduced in 1999, when we got involved 3 years ago, for the first time, there were more no's and abstentions than yes. And then the next year, it increased even more. And then this last year, before they decided to table it, the same thing. And then they gave up. And they gave up because you had the violent situations, which was the evidence of what we've been saying. And then you had a lot of hard work by our offices. And Pat, and you appreciate this as the founder of these organizations. Yeah. We had our offices in Pakistan, our offices in Strasbourg working Geneva. We had our offices in New York working the United Nations, Washington working the United States Congress. And the end result is, and a lot of other groups were involved in this too. I don't want to take credit away from anybody else. It was a team effort. The end result is the organization of the Islamic Conference has suffered their largest defeat at the United Nations since their inception. So this was a huge victory, but it's not over. I don't want anybody to think that they're going to just stop and it's going to go away.
What is their game? Their game is to establish Islam as the preeminent religion of the world and to stifle all others. Is that really what it is?
You know, Pat, it's what you've been saying since you and I have been talking about this. This is the domination of a view of Islam that is the dominant view. In other words, world dominion. The jihad aspect of this is the takeover. It's the conquest. And I think if you look at it, it's really the export. We have a booklet that we just did at the ACLJ that talks about Sharia law and the implications under the U.S. Constitution. And we just did a documentary that went with it that deals with the whole aspects of this exporting this Shariaist agenda. And the OIC was the cover for this. And they're the largest organization inside the United Nations. So, Pat, it was to penalize every religion except Islam. That was the goal here.
Well, you know, we've got to stand against this. I don't think the average person even understands the creeping aggrandizement of rights by these Islamic groups. They want to take over the world.
You know, they call it creeping Sharia. I said, Pat, I don't think it's creeping Sharia any longer. I think it's on a gallop, and we've got to be careful. When you've got courts in the United States and we've seen a couple, that have actually said, well, you know, I know this woman's charged her former husband with sexual abuse, but he's arguing under Sharia law it was justified, and I'm going to, you know, abide by Sharia law. That was overturned, by the way, by the New Jersey Court of Appeals. But that's what a district court judge said. And then in Florida, just 3 weeks ago, you had a judge say, well, I'm going to apply Sharia law to this dispute. Now, why in the United States of America or in the state of Florida would you not apply Florida corporate law to a matter like this? Why would you be applying Sharia law? Could you imagine if we said, okay, we're not going to apply the laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia to this. We're going to just look at the Bible, and that's how we're going to do it in court. Every group on the other side would be going ballistic, the ACLU and others. But no, it's Sharia law, it's Islamic law, they get a pass. But I'll tell you what, the American people have woken up to this. They are awake. That we had 400,000 people come to us, Pat, to sign a petition that went to the UN as a just the ground troops of support. And then the legal arguments were clear. You can't say that sharing the gospel is a violation of international law. Yeah. And look, I think most of the European countries agree with us, and you're certainly seeing now how the European countries are reacting.
Well, Jay, my friend, thanks for your fight. We love you. We appreciate what you're doing. Jay Sekulow, the American Center for Law and Justice, ladies and gentlemen, fighting for your freedom and liberty. Thanks, Jay.